Well, we are.
All right.
Woo! So you want to know something fun I found out today?
Yes.
I like Harry Styles' music.
Oh, good. Cool.
Says the guy wearing a Misfits shirt. But I don't know, man. It's catchy.
You know, well, that's the thing. Okay. You probably listened to him and you said, wow, as a Misfits fan, I really labeled this guy and I shouldn't have, because you probably misfit him into a box that he didn't belong in, right?
Sure. Now, but I want to be fair. I'm wearing a Misfits shirt. Earlier today, I listened to some Fall Out Boy on the radio. Big Smashing Pumpkins fan.
Of course.
I won't turn down some Wu-Tang. I have like 5 Wu-Tang shirts. I should probably wear one on the show just to prove it. I like Duffy a lot. Are you familiar with Duffy? She's like kind of bluesy. Album came out in like 2008. But
you mean Hillary Duffy, right?
No, just Duffy.
Okay.
Look her up. You'll like it. You'll probably like her. Rock Fairy's her first album. I think you'll like it. You should check it out. Okay. You know why I love this time of year, Matt?
Why is that?
As a dynasty manager, this is when people start to kind of like wake up. Like your dynasty brain wakes up. You get out of that like redraft lineup setting mindset that's kind of just dominated your brain because you're trying to get to the playoffs. So you're more focused on that. And maybe you're making some moves here and there. But this is where you know your team's direction. I clinched 5 leagues last week.
Cool.
So, right, which is great. I hope I make way more than that out of 25 leagues.
Oh, yeah. But it's nice to have that early clinch and know what you're doing. And some of these, you know, you got to categorize your teams. If you're in 25 leagues, you got to know which ones you've already clinched a bye. You got to know which ones you've already clinched the playoffs. You got to know which ones you've clinched the playoffs but are not competing for a bye. And those are some teams that you can like not stress about winning the next few games. You have to realize where the picks that you've hopefully accumulated, if you're longtime watchers of the show or Dynasty Minds, you've accumulated a lot of picks. You want to know where those picks are going to end up being and kind of manipulate the market a little bit if you can. Because I've got some picks from other people that are going to be like 102, 103, unless they accidentally make the playoffs. And I'm looking at their opponents and saying, hey, which old guys do you want to beat this dude? Or I'm looking at that dude and being like, hey, what can we do to take you out of the playoffs, you know?
Even this week, it's, do you need a player to survive the bye? Like, you've got Justin Fields. You need to win this week to make the playoffs. Or you're in Scott Fishbowl, and God forbid Justin Fields is your quarterback and he's on bye this week. Like, you've got to make some moves, which you can't do in Scott Fishbowl, but in Dynasty you can. And you'll see desperate managers overpay for a mediocre player, and it might not be a massive overpayment, but they'll do it. For those of you hearing my voice crack, I do have a little cold, and I have pink eye, so that's fun. That's how much of a trooper I am, guys. I came out with pink eye to talk Dynasty fantasy football, but also we don't have to be in the same room. And Albert saying hello, everyone. He also does not have to be in the same room, but we're so thankful for tuning in. Guys, I want to remind you real quick before we get into it, please like and subscribe to this video here. Razzball has some fantastic content coming out. Also, check out razzball.com for Dynasty redraft, betting content. And look, if you play Dynasty baseball, you shouldn't be going to another site and you shouldn't be subscribed to another YouTube channel. It is quite literally the best content out there. Matt, let's get into it. We've got to do a little bit of a panic check here, right? We've got some players we're a little worried about, some interesting, shall we say, situations. And the first one we're going to talk about is Bryce Young in Carolina. Now, we talked about him last week as someone you should be selling, but that's becoming even more apparent, which is why I wanted to talk about him again. I pulled some stats on him, and it's not good. All right. And this isn't just rookie jitters in a mediocre offense. This is a guy who isn't figuring it out, and it's becoming more and more apparent every single week that he might not figure it out. Frank Reich's not a terrible coach. There's some things he could have done better to scheme. We won't argue that. They need to be running more RPO. Their offensive line is ranked 32nd in the league. They're terrible, right? But dude, Bryce Young, sure, ninth in passing grade amongst qualifying rookie quarterbacks. There's only 10 of them. Okay, and those rookie quarterbacks include Clayton Tune and Dorian Thompson Robinson. Yeah, no, it's not good. Eighth in total offensive grade on PFF at 49.2. Sixth in completion percentage at 61.7. He is first in something. That's interceptions with 8. And he's also first in total QB pressures. And the reason I put this on here was because you could argue, yeah, he's been bad because he doesn't have any time. And we referenced the 32nd ranked offensive line. Here's the problem, Matt. CJ Stroud is second in that category with 153
pressures.
So CJ Stroud is seeing just slightly, 11 less pressures than Stroud has seen. And he's been phenomenal. He's figuring out a way to do it. And you could really argue between Adam Thielen and Jonathan Mingo and Terrace Marshall and Laviska Shenault, Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard. He has your offensive line sucks. But when does that stop becoming an excuse for Bryce Young when you're looking at this offense? You're like, you could have performed better. Not great play calling. Sure. Frank Reich's gone. I don't think it gets any better for Bryce Young.
Is this a pull the plug on Bryce Young, get rid of him if you can get 3 seconds? Where are you with Bryce Young and his long-term outlook? Because I don't see a way up and out because they don't have a first next year. They don't have they have money, but they're gonna have to pay the Christian Kirk price on anybody that goes there. I don't think that he has weapons in any of those receivers that you said. Adam Thielen's 33 years old.
But Adam Thielen has been effective. Thielen has been effective.
But there's nothing bright about Bryce Young's future.
No, there's nothing bright. This is a kid he's set up to fail.
Let me ask you this, because I have this option in a league where I'm tanking and I'm stuck with Bryce Young and somebody else is tanking and they're trying to get rid of Russell Wilson. How far off are those two? And am I crazy on a tanking team to get out from Bryce for Russell Wilson?
No, if you're tanking, you should keep Bryce. Russell Wilson has been infinitely better.
Okay. I don't worry about tanking points, and also we got 2 more weeks before tanking points don't matter at all. So you're talking about maybe a difference of 20 points for the max points for. But I'm just talking about their careers over the next year or two and their values over the next year or two.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Just straight up swap.
Yep, I'd do it.
That's wild, man.
Because
you're talking about the 103 in rookie classes this year.
Bryce Young? How low was I on Bryce Young all offseason?
I have one share that I got because he fell to 106.
Me too.
And I got him there. Yeah. And I'm stuck with him now. And we're at a point where next year I'll definitely be competing. So should I just get rid of Bryce Young for what you could? I watched a lot of Russell Wilsons go for straight up seconds last year.
Yeah.
Are we converting our old 103 to 106 Bryce Young into an old future second Russell Wilson? Because I don't hate it. I really don't.
I don't hate it either, because if you hold on to Bryce, what's the chance that his value gets even lower? If he craps it out the rest of this season and then he sucks next season because they bring in some second tier, third tier head coach, because they will. Because nobody's going to want to come and coach.
And these young QBs get destroyed mentally, psychologically after 2 years of just being.
Yeah, look, I don't want to talk about Bryce Young anymore. It sucks.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
Get rid of him. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor. This is an interesting situation in Indy. Again, as I always do, did some stat diving here. He's been the RB13 since returning in week 6. It's not exactly what you were hoping for out of Jonathan Taylor, though you do have to say that his ADP and redraft, that's not bad. This isn't a redraft show. So in Dynasty, that sucks. Mm-hmm. For what you were paying to acquire Jonathan Taylor, that sucks. He returned in week 5. And week 7, he finally got to see some full volume, right? So like, okay, maybe he'll get back into it. Then he hurts his thumb. And when he was looking really good, and everyone's like, "Oh, Jonathan Taylor," he was still only RB9 from week 7 through week 12.
Sure, but what was the trend during those few weeks from week 7
It was
to week
about
12?
the same. I mean, he had mostly taken over for Zach Moss by week 7. Moss was getting like 5, 3, 4, 7 carries. It wasn't anything notable. Then he hurts his thumb. He's out at least 2 to 3 weeks. If you're Indy, do you roll him back out if this team doesn't have a shot at the playoffs?
Okay, so it's not as bad as you're saying. He came back in week 5. He only paid 15% snap share. Then in week 6, he played a 42% snap share. Week 7, 50% snap share. So his snap share percentage went 15, 42, 50, 61, 74, 88, and then he got hurt. So it was trending in a much heavier usage direction.
He didn't know he was hurt.
So between those weeks, he's averaging 17 points through those weeks. I don't think that the player has lost value. I think that you might have an opportunity to buy him from somebody. Like in a league right now, I'm looking at a contender who has Jonathan Taylor, and I have Charbonnet and Aaron Jones. And if Aaron Jones comes back and has a good game this week, I might be able to pair off Aaron Jones and Charbonnet and say, hey, look, I'll get you through the playoffs and you got a future Charbonnet. Would you give me Jonathan Taylor for it? That's something that I'm looking at doing because the talent, he's a talented dude. He's in a good situation. He's going to do well situation.
But is it going to be such a good situation? Do you think you think he'll do well with AR?
I think that their offensive line is good enough that they will produce, they will get touchdowns, and he will break off 70-yard runs because that's what he does.
Sure. All right. Well, I think that's settled. Here's another one we're going to talk about. It's Derrick Henry. King Henry. We'll go through this one really quick. I want to throw out some things. I want to know if he's a buy or a sell for you right now at cost. So we were told he was slowing down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but the good, 5th in rushing yards, 743, 4th in total attempts, 177, 4th in rushing attempts, tied for 6th in rushing touchdowns with 6. He has the 5th highest PFF offensive grade. In a year that we were told Derrick Henry was going to fall off, especially because they brought in Tyjae Spears, especially earlier on in the season when Tyjae Spears was starting to take some work from him.
It's also like the third year in a row that they've been warning us that Derrick Henry's hitting the age cliff. Dude's an alien, and he doesn't wear down as the season goes on like most running backs do, and most veterans do, because he's a freak. He's a 250-pound, 6'5". He doesn't take punishment; he gives punishment. It's a different narrative with this guy.
It is. So here's the bad, right? This is insane. His 4.2 yards per carry this season, the lowest of his career.
Yeah,
dude, I would take that. Could we get Joe Mixon to 4.2 yards per carry, please, God? That would be phenomenal. That's his lowest yards per carry of his entire career is insane. 2024 would be Henry's 9th NFL season, and he turns 30 before the season starts. I don't really care about any of this. I will ride Derrick Henry on my dynasty rosters until he falls off that cliff because he has been that good. And he could be that Adrian Peterson freak running back who at 32 years old is turning in 1,000-yard seasons still. It's entirely possible.
So he's played 11 games this year. He's got 8 double-digit games, and I think 5 of his 11 games are over 18 points. He's good. He's good.
He's just good.
With the longevity that we give running backs these days, you're really playing year to year or every 2 years at most before we have to kind of figure out where things realign. Derrick Henry is just as good as pretty much anybody else. And he's got a nice playoff schedule, or from here on out, he plays one hard team in Miami, and that's week 14, but he's got Indy, and they're one of the best to play against. He's got Houston as one of the best teams to run against. Seattle's one of the very best teams to run against in the semi-championships. And then Houston again. Yeah. So this is where it all lines up. And Derrick Henry, like a train, once he gets started, you want it once the momentum has gone.
Yeah, you can't stop it. Yep. All right. So now here's a train. Puka Nacua. He was a freaking train to start the season. His historical start, weeks 1 through 5, he was PPR wide receiver 3. We know the tale. 10 of 15, 15 of 20, just insane. Weeks 1 through 6, he had a catch rate of 75.9%.
That's bonkers. That's real nice.
That's bonkers, right? Well, week 6 through 12, PPR wide receiver 38. Week 7 through 12, his catch rate 56.2%.
Ooh, where does that compare to the rest of the league? It's got to be bottom third.
I didn't have
right?
time to pull that up. It's got to be bottom third. Has to be bottom third.
Wow, yuck.
Further concerning, Matt, we don't know what's going on with this team past this season.
McVay.
We have no clue.
Matt Stafford.
We don't know.
Yeah.
They have Kupp under contract through 2026 with the beating his body has taken. He's getting up there in age. Does he want to keep playing? And I know he hasn't said anything about retiring, but he keeps getting hurt. Like at a certain point, these guys, like, he's made so much freaking money, and he has a career in coaching and broadcasting. And
I don't know how that relates to Puka's usage, because it seems like after Cooper Kupp came back, they both did poorly, right? Even in their efficiency. Fair. And you'd think that their efficiency would do better because they got to split the defense up. But their efficiency's both been Cooper Kupp career low, and then Puka Nacua terrible. So, 52%, I think you said.
56. But if Cooper Kupp retires and this team goes into rebuilding mode, are you at all interested in acquiring Puka? Because you know his manager can be like, I think maybe it might be time to sell, because if this team's going into rebuild, you don't know how long that's going to take. It'll be 2, 3, 4 seasons before they're relevant again, and then Puka's up and down.
He's fun.
They draft a wide receiver.
Look, if somebody, I'm not going to search for him, and if somebody wants to give me him at a discount, that's fine. Or if we can build a package around him. But I drafted a lot of Puka Nacua. I traded back into the 4th round to get Puka Nacua, which is a silly thing to do, is like trade into the 4th round of rookie picks.
Dude, but by that time, trading's pretty much
done. For sure.
That paid off for the first 5 weeks.
And I sold 3 Pukas so far, and I regretted it after he kept going off, but I sold him. Sure. I think after week 2, after week 1, I bought 1 Puka for a second from somebody who said, this isn't real. It's a mirage, and I'm tanking anyway. So take him for a second. So I gave him a late second, got Puka. He did it again. So I was like, all right, well, let me sell him wherever I can for a first. And so in a different league, I sold Puka for a first, which is going to be a late first. That's fine. And Greg Dulcich. And I've been regretting that, but I don't regret it so much anymore.
I wouldn't.
No.
It was fun.
Packaged him here and there. Oh, you know what? So one interesting one that I did recently is in a Dynasty best ball. 2 weeks ago, I sold Puka Nacua for a package of, now this is best ball, or I wouldn't have done it. Puka for Eckler, Kamara, and Raheem Mostert, right? Like they might all die this offseason. But it's a best ball. I'm going to have a bye week 1, and we don't know what's going to happen with Puka. Now, in the 2 weeks since then, he's probably lost value, and that guy would have had other suitors. So I'm glad I got out when I did for that like odd discounted cost of him, which is now a very, very happy cost for me. And I don't know that it's going to get better this year. And I'm not going to buy him until probably this offseason, when managers are starting to think, it's time to, take what I can get for him and move on. And at that point, if I can spend another second on him, I will do that again.
The schedule's brutal-ish. Cleveland, Baltimore, Washington, New Orleans, and they got the Giants in the fantasy playoffs, the fantasy championships. But yeah, I'm not willing to risk it with him. I have no shares. I'm going to keep it that way. We'll see how cheap he gets this offseason. Yeah, I have no shares. And then if he gets cheap this offseason, I might try and acquire him depending on what the franchise does. So we'll have to see. Now, this is one I'm interested to hear what you have to say about DK Metcalf. It's been a weird season for him. I think we all kind of saw it coming a little bit. We thought he was going to have a downturn. He's on pace for a career low in catches, which would be 66. Touchdowns, 4.63. So not even 5 touchdowns. And catch rate of 57.3%.
If you took the name away from the character, you don't want this dude. If these were a rookie's number, If this guy came out and put these numbers up in his rookie season, you would say this is not a guy that you want in his second year because it will not go up. He doesn't clear any of the benchmarks that you would give, even for a rookie in his first year in the league. Yeah, I'm out.
Okay, but here's the rub, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Despite that, he still is averaging. He has the highest yards per catch average of his career. He's averaging 15.77 yards per reception, which is why he's trending towards 1,047 yards. He'll clear 1,000 yards this season.
Okay.
Does that change how you feel? Is this a Geno Smith problem? Is there hope that he rebounds? He's only 25.
What is his ADOT? Did his ADOT raise drastically? Because if his targets are much deeper, then I understand the lack of efficiency and the lack of production and the nice yards per catch.
That's something I don't know. So I will look it up after the show and put it in the show notes so we can let everyone know what that is, because that is important to know. Because if his ADOT did go up, that does make a difference. So we'll put that in there.
If I can sell him on his name, I will. I sold at least one this year. I got out. I got a first and a second and Michael Williams after he got hurt. Without even hesitating, I would do that in every league, no matter what situation I'm in. Please let me re-roll on DK at close to his value 2 years ago. Yeah,
totally. I'd be down for that. I am a little concerned because we don't know who the quarterback's going to be next season. We assume it's going to be Geno Smith, but he hasn't played well this season. And he's really not under contract for a ton of money. He got a decent amount. They could give Drew Lock another shot, which we know that won't happen. They might bring in a vet. They might have a decent pick in the first round. I think they still have a first rounder from the Broncos next season, which was looking really good the first 6 weeks. It's not looking as good now, but they'll be in position where they can take one of those back into the first round quarterbacks. We don't know who they're going to be now. There's still a lot of bowl games and combines and senior bowls to be played to kind of determine that. And JSN's going into year 2. And like Tyler Lockett, we say he's going to die every year. And then he just comes out here and is oddly fantasy relevant. But that said, DK Metcalf is the most athletic and talented wide receiver on this team. So even if they get a rookie quarterback, who do you think that guy's going to target? DK Metcalf. So
maybe
we know, Matt, we know. Dude, you're a rookie in the NFL. And you have a crappy offensive line, and you have DK Metcalf, who is this freak athletic guy. You just put the ball near him, and he's going to make the best effort. He has a really good chance of catching it and bringing it down and making you look really good. So
DK Metcalf is basically name cachet Nico Collins. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we can call him that.
Okay, I'll take that. Take that.
So another name, Matt, that we have talked about way more than once on this show because he might be one of the most frustrating assets in Dynasty, Kyle Pitts. Things have looked a little better. Kind of. He's tight end 18, better than tight end 33 last season. He's played in one more game this season than he played in last season, so that's awesome. He's on pace for 92 targets, which is pretty good. It's not the 110 he got his rookie season. But here's my problem. Jonnu Smith is under contract through next season. Arthur Smith has a hard-on for that dude. He has since he was in Tennessee. And if Arthur Smith is back, which every indication is he's doing mediocre enough that Arthur Blank isn't going to fire him. So he's probably going to be around next season. Oddest thing, I tried to look up his contract today. I could not find it anywhere. There were no contract details. Arthur Smith. Couldn't find it.
Okay.
All it said was multi-year. It was something like a base salary of like $560,000 plus incentives. So you've got a cheap coach who's kind of winning and putting asses in seats. You probably keep him. It's a good business move. And in a crappy division that you're leading, you can get to the playoffs.
It's a weird situation. So there's a few things about those numbers that I want to bring up. Is that you said he's on pace for 92 or 96 targets this year?
92.
That's pretty decent compared to the production that he's gotten from them.
Well,
you also have to take into account the quality of targets that he's getting, because he's getting targets from Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder, and those are not accurate quarterbacks. So targets are earned. That is one of the heuristics that you stick by. Targets are earned. That's why Deontay Johnson, we're just waiting for him to not have a Kenny Pickett. We're waiting for him to not have a last year Ben Roethlisberger. So because these guys, they earn targets. So not only are they bad targets coming out of Atlanta, but there are very few targets coming out of Atlanta. There's probably less than 25 passing plays a game, which is ridiculously low. And I'm just guessing, but they're probably bottom 7 in the league.
Yeah. Well, they threw more with
listen,
Heineke,
if he's getting 92 targets on a bottom 5 passing offense, this is a buy talent sell situation.
Sure.
You buy the talent because he's getting a lot of targets where there are no targets going out, and he's getting bad targets, so he's not getting production with them, so he's overlooked. Just get him cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And it's like when a stock goes, when you buy a chunk of a certain stock and it starts trending down and you know that it's going to go back up, they have what's called buying down. So let's say you buy a bunch of that stock at $100, right? And then it drops down to $50. Well, if you buy the same amount of stocks at $50 that you did at $100, now all of a sudden, all those stocks that you bought are $75. So you want to buy down at Kyle Pitts.
Right.
As much as you can stomach him.
Well, I agree.
You know, it's just tolerance.
Here's why I agree. Look, tight end 18, you're getting good weeks, you're getting bad weeks. In Dynasty, on most teams, I can ride that because that's the tight end position anyway, right? You win some, you lose some, week in and week out at the position. But Pitts could be a free agent after 2024. And if Kyle Pitts goes to a different team, if he's like, hell no, I'm not re-signing with you guys. No, I'm out. And he goes to a team like San Francisco. Because we know,
oh my God.
George Kittle's on the back end of shit there, right?
Sure. He'll be 33.
He'll be 33. Yeah. Goes to Kansas City.
Stop it. Okay, stop it. Sure.
Kelsey plays 2024. They win one more Super Bowl. He retires, and they sign Kyle Pitts in the offseason. And Patrick Mahomes' career is extended by 10 seasons.
Let's say this. You know who I don't want Kyle Pitts to be, but he might end up being that guy? We were really, really high on rookie Evan Ingram. We love.
I wasn't, though.
Okay.
I wasn't.
Well, a lot of people loved the prospect of Evan Ingram, and it took him like 8 years to get going, right? Well, right. So Evan Ingram might leave that situation at the same time that Kyle Pitts goes there. All we keep on getting at is that the talent is there and the situation is terrible, which is terrible. Which is the clearest buy in Dynasty that there is. Just make sure that you find the guy that's ready, and you probably will find a Pitts manager that's ready to get off him.
Yep, get off him. I can't do it yet, but I think I am going to actually go acquire a little bit more Kyle Pitts.
I don't blame you.
We'll see. We'll see. All right, guys. Well, that does it for us. Thank you for riding with the Dynasty Diehards on this Wednesday afternoon. It's almost December, and we are really excited to start digging into some of that real deep Dynasty talk here soon. Just want to remind everyone, please make sure you follow us on Twitter at FFDinoDiehards, at razzball. Find me at Nate Polvogt and at FF Matt Chester. Please make sure you like and subscribe. We really appreciate the support. It helps us keep doing this for you week in and week out. For Matt Chester, I'm Nate Polvogt. I think we'll probably see you next week.
Bye.